2026 is going to be an awesome year. We got some pretty cool stuff coming up. First off, we got Foundations of Recovery. This is our flagship program. We're starting it in January.
This is for anyone, man, woman, or couple who wants to come and reclaim their heart from shame, trauma, and betrayal. We start off with an education on all sorts of principles, give you the common language. We feed you from a fire hose in terms of all things recovery.
It is such a great start to recovery. And we get at the roots of things, Tyler. This isn't like any other program. Like, this is our healing journey in process, and Foundations is where we begin.
If you look at the value that you're getting there to kick off a good recovery with all of the right education, all of the right language, and a team to get you started while also being directed by Brannon and myself through the whole process, what a deal.
So if you're interested, if you're struggling, if you've been wanting to do something for a long time, jump into this. This only comes around every so often, and we would love to have you there.
Click the link in the description to sign up for it. And to make it even sweeter, we're also including a raffle for a free pass to the Radiant Dawn retreat. Anyone who signs up for Foundations will be added to the raffle for that free Radiant Dawn pass. If you're a man and you sign up for Foundations, your name still gets entered, and you can give that pass away if you win it to any woman that you want to.
So what you're saying, Tyler, is if you sign up and participate in Foundations, you could possibly go to Radiant Dawn for free?
That's exactly what I'm saying, which is crazy because Foundations by itself is already an insane value.
Man, I sound so salesy. But it actually is awesome. So come to Foundations. And even if you don't come to Foundations, sign up for Radiant Dawn. It's beyond therapy, the best healing experiences that you can have.
Click the link below and come join us. What is real integrity? Welcome to the Therapy Brothers podcast.
I'm Brannon.
I'm Tyler.
We're brothers.
We're therapists.
And we know recovery.
Bring your stories, your questions, your successes with real recovery.
Hey, Tyler, you ready to have some hard conversations?
Let's do it.
Let the Therapy Brothers podcast begin.
Brannon, how's it going?
It's going well. How are you?
Doing great, man.
That's good. That's good. Sounds like you've been a busy man lately.
Yeah, over all the wrong things. I asked Brinley, my daughter, today. She said, "What are you?" I said, "Man, I'm stressed out about this upcoming week." She's like, "What are you stressed out about?" And I said, "I'm stressed out about my real job." And she's like, "Real job? Like, what's your other job?" And I said, "My other job is trying to find the Utah treasure." So,
So you bring that up again, man.
Yeah, it's like that one of those things. Like I know that in the back of my brain, I should have stayed away from it in the first place because I have that little
now you're obsessing over it.
Yeah, I had that little addictive hook. So it's like I've had to literally set bottom lines where I can't open certain tabs on my computer, so that all I do is focus on work.
StarCraft.
Yeah, same thing.
Same thing. There's this part of you that's just kind of, yeah.
There's always an addiction lurking around every corner. So
just manage it, and
yeah.
I almost, I hope you don't find the treasure because I'm sorry, it makes you laugh, but
it would reinforce the wrong things. You're right. It's like a gambler hitting it big.
Yeah.
So
but my brother's treasure hunting. I love it.
I know. Hey, there's people that come from all over the country for this treasure hunt because
hey, this is a big deal.
There's people coming from Texas. There might even be people coming from where our who we're collaborating with today is in North Carolina. And so they might even be coming from there. So anyway, I'm going to step away from the treasure hunt and we're going to actually get into the episode today. How does that sound, Brannon?
Let's do that. Let's
do that. So we're collaborating today with Jolene Win, who is a certified life coach. And she also has her own podcast called The Porn Addict's Wife and her own personal story. So we'll save all of that for you guys to go find out a little bit more about her platform and who she is and do some exploring yourself. But she's got her own personal story. She's got her expertise. And we're here today to have a little discussion about integrity. So glad to have you here with us, Jolene.
I'm very excited to be here. So thank you.
Yeah. I kind of came up with the topic, and a lot of this comes from just some recent experiences that I've had. So what I'm hoping the three of us can do is have a discussion today about what are our actual definitions of integrity, what integrity means, and why it's so important in the recovery process. Because I've got so many people who I don't think really fully understand what integrity is. I had a guy this week, he basically said that he hadn't lost his integrity because he had went out and done something that was against his values, but because nobody asked him about it, that he hadn't been dishonest. And we had a pretty big, broad group discussion about whether or not that was honest or dishonest, and whether or not honesty ties into integrity in that kind of a way.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to jump in because this reminds me of my husband. So my husband was addicted to pornography, which is how I then got into all of this. And I didn't know about it for the first 5 or 6 years of our marriage. And for years, he thought he had told himself that it wasn't a lie because I had never outright asked him. I had never said, hey, are you watching pornography? Are you addicted to pornography? And because I hadn't asked him, it wasn't really a lie that he didn't tell me. And so this has been something that's been super fascinating for me to think about, because on the one hand, I understand how that I understand where he got it. I understand the justification in his brain. And yet I also recognize that there is a division there, because if it really wasn't a problem, then he would have brought it to me himself. Does that make sense? Like if he really had no problem with it, then he would have offered it. He wouldn't have had to keep it hidden. It wouldn't have been something that he neglected to share. It would have been out in the open already. Does that make sense?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, to just kind of, like, there's things I don't tell my wife, and I don't feel like I'm out of my integrity. And so, like, I'm not actively trying to hide them from her. It's just, I don't tell her everything about everything, right? Sure. And so like, I think there are times when it's like, yeah, no, like, in fact, she doesn't even want to know. Like, she would care less if I told her, right?
Sure.
So I don't need to constantly disclose in order to be in my integrity. But I think the difference, and Jolene, tell me what you think about this, is when I feel like it's something that I probably should disclose, but I omit it and I avoid talking about it. And if they don't ask, then I tell myself that I'm still in my integrity. That's not being in your integrity. Is that what you're saying?
100%. Yeah. I mean, I don't feel like everybody has to tell everybody everything always, but especially when you are, I think the difference is like actively trying to hide it. Yes, he was actively trying to hide it, but was justifying not coming and telling me with the idea of, well, I didn't ask, so it's okay.
Yeah.
I think that's a very important distinction there. I'm also in my own recovery too, Jolene, and I relate to exactly everything you just described your husband doing. That was my MO. Like,
yes.
And it's so funny because one of the definitions of integrity actually is, I think the definition is the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles, moral uprightness. And if you would have asked me, even in the thickness of my deepest part of my addiction, I would have considered myself a very morally straight person.
Yes.
Right. Very morally honest, like all of that stuff. And what I had to realize in order to start getting better was exactly what Brannon and you are saying now, is I actually have to gauge my feeling of, am I hiding? If I feel like I'm hiding, I'm going to need to disclose it. And sometimes that might have been a little bit more over disclosure than necessary, but I had to learn how to do it because I was so good at convincing myself that nothing needed to be shared. And so that intentional hiding, or it's almost a form of manipulation too.
Yes.
That's the part that actually lacks integrity, which if you look at it, was going against of everything else I was trying to live, which is this moral life.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's so fascinating, because I think often, I mean, the first person that you hide it from is yourself, right? No matter what it is, if it's going against your moral integrity, your standards, your values, the first person that you have to convince that it's okay to do that is yourself. Mm-hmm. And the better you get at doing that, the more you do that, the easier it is to do it, I think, to other people, because you are the one that's with yourself the most. You know yourself the most. You are going to be the one that is the hardest to convince. So once you've convinced yourself, I think it's easier to justify that to other people.
Yeah. When you say justify, convince yourself, I think a lot of times we think of honesty as like, hey, I tell someone the truth or I don't. But where honesty breaks down more than any other place is internal. It's denial. It's justification. It's minimizing things. So we can be out of our integrity, and it doesn't matter whether we disclose something or we don't disclose something to someone else. We're still out of our integrity because we're going into that denial and justifying things in our life.
Yeah, 100%. I like, Tyler, that you brought up the definition, because when you said this is what we're going to talk about, I looked up the definition real quick, and that was the exact definition. But then there's a second definition, and it says integrity is the state of being whole and undivided. And I think that that's a really powerful way to ask ourselves is, am I living in integrity, or is there a part of me where I'm in conflict, where I'm in internal conflict, where I am a little divided, where I say one thing and I do another? And honesty is the key here, because you have to honestly answer the question. And that requires a lot of humility to do so, because again, we are really good at justifying things to ourselves, hiding things from ourselves. And it takes a lot of humility to honestly take a look and say, this is where I am acting in a way where I say one thing and I'm doing another. And that's just a difficult place to get to, I feel like.
I want to test this out, Jolene, and just get your 2 cents on this a little bit. So yeah, I like that second definition of integrity a lot. Integrity is keeping form. It's you think about a bridge. If you go on a bridge that doesn't have integrity,
right,
you're gonna die. But if it keeps form, you're going to be okay.
Yes.
And the bridge is there. But let me give you some scenarios. When we talk about being honest, being humble enough to be honest, this is a real scenario. I had a couple, I've talked about this before, live in a small town. She has some issues, I would say, with her body image, her self-worth. He has issues with pornography addiction and acting out in those ways. She pulls up Facebook and starts going through pictures of people in the small town that they live in and asking, is she hot? Is she not hot? Is she hot? Is she not hot? Like
to him, she's asking him these questions.
To him, like, tell me, is she hot? Do you think she's hot? Do you think she's hot? If, a man in integrity, how do you show up in a situation like that? What should he do? What do you think?
Based off of those definitions of being whole and undivided, or Brannon, the other definition that you came up with is more of a structural definition, is the ability to hold shape under pressure, basically, is what you're talking about.
Yeah. So this is a complex situation. The three of us know that it is.
Yeah.
Her anxiety is there. Her betrayal trauma is at play. His
shame and insecurity is in play.
Insecurity, codependency with her is very strong. So how does he navigate something like that to maintain building trust with her and safety with her, yet show up in his integrity?
So my opinion is that she doesn't actually want to know these answers. That's not what she wants. She wants to feel better. And she wants to know that she's the one that he's looking at. And she doesn't know that. So that's hard. I personally, this is just, I think that the best thing that he could do is try and not even look at the pictures, to be quite frank. She doesn't want him to look at the pictures. She wants him to say, you're the only one I'm ever going to look at. Ever. I don't need to look at all these pictures. All of these women could be the hottest women in the world and it wouldn't matter. And that's, to me, the best thing that he could do is bring it back to what she's really trying to get at, which is validation for her. But it's difficult because when she's in that place, what she thinks is that if he answers this, it's almost like a test. He has to answer this correctly, and then that'll be the thing that makes me trust him again. And she's looking for him to give an answer that will make her feel better. And that's never how that works.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's so difficult because, and we find ourselves in these same kind of scenarios all the time with the work you do. You're in the exact same spot we are, which is, you said some things. She doesn't even know that that's what she's looking for. So she thinks that him answering, and here's the struggle. If they go into the 20 questions game of hot or not, if he answers honestly, she's beautiful, she's attractive, that's gonna amp her up even further. If he answers dishonestly, he's sacrificing his integrity and he's actually ruining trust too. And it's not even scratching the itch that you were talking about, which is she's saying, I'm devastated, I'm scared, I'm feeling insecure, I need some reassurance, I need to know that I'm important to you. And him and his integrity would be the best thing that he could do, is to say, hey, I don't think this is going to be a helpful exercise. I'm here for you. If you want to talk about your feelings, if you want me to reassure you, I'm happy to do that. That would be a man who's actually holding his form, so to speak.
Sure.
And that would actually be building trust.
I think the person in that scenario that is not lacking integrity more is the woman than the man in that scenario. And I don't think she understands that.
Yeah.
Explain that a little bit further. Yeah.
When you are in a marriage where where your husband is struggling with pornography, a lot of your own stuff comes up. That's why it's a hard thing. It's your own thoughts about your self-worth and your body image and your physical insecurities. And it's your own thoughts of distrust and anxiety. And when you are looking for someone else to solve that, it's a misunderstanding of the source of the problem. And it's wanting someone else to step in where it's not their place. So while it may seem like a big stretch to call it a not showing up in integrity, I think it's a lack of honesty with yourself. I think she doesn't know herself well enough to be honest about where she is, about where she's internally divided, where she's internally lost her integrity, where she's fallen out of form, where she is broken. She doesn't understand what is going on. And so is looking for someone else to fix her. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And Jolene, I'm glad you're the one that said that, so you can get the emails from people because what you just said is is a really mature way an accountable way of approaching recovery, and an empowering way. But a lot of times what we'll hear from that is, look, you're victim blaming, you're blaming her, you're telling she's the one out of integrity and she's the one blah, 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 blah. No, what we're saying is, we are saying that, but what we're saying is she can shift into an alignment in her integrity and heal.
Yes.
And realize what she really needs here.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. And I do think that I just disagree with the notion that you have to be a victim, because it's very appealing. And I am not saying that the woman has ever done anything to ask for or create a husband's pornography problem or whatever his vice is. I disagree with that completely. Right. But if you think of yourself as the victim, then you always have to wait for someone to come save you. And it's not true. The truth is that when you realize that your husband's pornography problem is just the thing that's bringing up all of your stuff, then you get to start moving forward today. You don't have to wait for him to get his act together. Thank goodness. I mean, no offense to men, but if we had to wait for them for everything, we would be around, we just have to sit here for who knows how long until they started working on themselves. And that's not what has to happen. And the other realization that is so powerful, which again, I did this with my own husband, which is how I know about all this stuff, is he can do all the right things and it still won't make you feel better. This is why a woman can have a spouse who hasn't looked in porn in 20 years and she's still devastated and still struggling and still showing him pictures on Facebook, wanting him to give the right answer because she thinks that his behavior is going to make her feel better, but it's not ever going to work.
Yes.
It'll never be the answer. Mm-hmm. And I love the way that you used that definition of integrity. I think integrity is such a hot button that if you say she's not acting in her integrity, people instantly shut up oh no, you're calling her a liar and this and that. But the way you just described that was she's losing her power.
Yes.
That's really what you're saying. And what you want for her is to find that wholeness for her own power's sake, for her own choice, for her own freedom's sake. I know you just did a recent episode on, I loved your episode on your podcast on Independence Day and that idea of independence. And
100%.
That's the essence of what you're talking about here is if I can accept that I am not in my integrity and I'm not put off by the buzzword integrity and all the judgment that comes with it, now I can actually accept those things, and the acceptance of where I'm at gives me choice of reality that I'm in rather than waiting for this world to do all the work for me that I'm actually going to eventually have to do for myself anyway.
100%. And I think that that's the most beautiful thing about not having a victim mindset, no matter what has happened to you. The powerful thing about beating that victim mindset is that you do take back your agency, your freedom to then create whatever it is you want in your life, your freedom to say, yes, this happened to me, but I no longer define myself by it. And I refuse to let it keep its hold on me for the rest of my life. I am choosing how I move forward, and I can move forward. And here I go.
Yep. Even when it's scary.
Yeah. Well, it's always scary.
Well, and that's what breaks down integrity, right? It's like we like succumb to the fear versus sit in the truth. And integrity, I want to come back to the scenario, and then I got another one for you, Jolene. Okay. So integrity is about being in alignment with truth. And when we're in alignment with truth, we feel peace, we feel power. And so like this guy, I've shared the scenario before. It's not about whether the women in the town are hot or not.
Yeah.
And for him to step into his power and have some boundaries with her and say, look, I can't play. He wouldn't say it this way, by the way. I can't play this game with you. This doesn't feel right for me. Maybe we can talk about this in our next therapy session or whatever, but I'm not comfortable with this. That could trigger her all kinds of places.
Totally. Yes.
But that hands it back to her to then look within and say, whoa, why am I doing this? And it also gives him opportunity to be strong, to hold some strength in that moment for her of, this is my truth. This is where I'm at. This doesn't work for me. And that's in turn going to hopefully help her feel safe, even though it triggers her that he's being boundaried with her. Right? Yeah. So it's about strength. It's about, and when I say strength in staying whole. Who are you? Yeah. Being honest in that moment. Okay, next scenario, Jolene, you ready?
Brannon, before you go to the next scenario, I just want to add to that just a little bit, if that's okay. In the example you just gave, Brannon, and I think in what Jolene described as well, it not only builds trust, but if you think about it, if he plays that game and does the yes, no, hot, not list thing, he's actually not really loving his wife either. He's in self-preservation and he's worried more about himself than he is about her.
Yeah, it's about him. Yeah.
And when he stands in his own integrity, even though it's painful and she might have some painful experience in some moments, if he does it with empathy, he's actually loving her because it's putting back in her court what's hers and he's owning what's his, and he's loving her by doing that too. So it's not just integrity, it's a form of love as well.
Yep.
Yeah, completely.
Well, another scenario, I won't make you go through this one, Jolene, but when I first started doing this, therapist I was working under, who we kind of know who that is, that would teach these check-ins, and they do check-ins at night, and the guy would come home and go through his whole day and unload everything he possibly could unload in order to feel like he was being honest. So yeah, I saw this woman on the bus, this, and she would just like be hearing it thinking, well, the therapist is telling us we're supposed to do this check-in thing. Yay, he's being honest now, and I hate this.
Yes.
This sucks.
Yes.
Right? That's not integrity. That's just like Tyler said, that's self-preservation for him, using her to unload to try to feel honest, right?
Yeah. Well, one thing that I think about this that comes up is that you have, and this is with both scenarios, is that integrity is also having integrity in your role and your relationship. So the first scenario of showing all these different pictures on Facebook, the husband being integrity as his role as a husband to his wife is the one that says, I'm not going to look at this. I don't need to look at these. That's him being in integrity in that role. And in the same way of your second scenario, this is why I don't think women should be the accountability partner for their spouse, because it's not a spouse role. It's a completely different role. So yes, she was having integrity in the role as an accountability partner, but most women are not in an emotionally healthy enough space to take that on because they are the spouse. They have thoughts, they have feelings, they have lots of in their own stuff that comes up, and they don't know how to deal with that. And yet they think they're supposed to as the accountability partner. That's two separate roles, and the wife should never be the accountability partner for their spouse. Now, does that mean that he should never be honest about what's going on? No, but it doesn't have to be a daily check-in of like, hey, every time I was triggered today, let me tell you. It's not the same role.
Yeah, I think with that idea of one way to manage that, because we do want a space for there to be honesty and proactive honesty about things, is with that check-in process. Something that we do is we've changed the check-ins to be more whole person oriented rather than this is what I saw, check through the day. Mm-hmm. But then also the accountability happens with what we call our lines of defense or whatever else it is. And that happens with a team member. And then there's honesty about whatever the work was that went above beyond the lines of defense. Mm-hmm. So that now there's honesty to the partner. Like, hey, I had a rough day today. I talked to so-and-so, this and that and the other. So now there's honesty, but the partner doesn't have to go, tell me what happened. Let's do a chain together. Let's do all this stuff together. Like, no, because that's not really even fair to her in some ways.
Correct.
But there's still proactive honesty in it because there's the active work going on that she knows is happening.
Yes.
Right.
And I will take this one step farther. And I will say that most women, the reason that they want the honesty is because they think it'll make them feel better. Now, I will say 100% across the board with myself and every client I've had, the thing that hurts worse than the pornography is the hiding, is the lying. So honesty is the best thing that you could do for your spouse. But most women get stuck in a place where they're relying on their spouse telling them what's going on, so that rather than doing their own work on what's coming up for them, right? So rather than just like, why am I feeling so anxious? Why am I worried about a relapse? Why am I worried about all of these things? They're relying on him to kind of mask that rather than do the work themselves to solve that emotional turmoil. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's almost like the pursuit of that quote honesty is like running a long race and getting a goo pack or a sugar shot or something. And so the honesty is being used for short, cheap fuel rather than letting it build from the ground up and build that kind of strong foundation. That's kind of what you're saying.
Yeah. It's like they're two different things. Honesty is super important, yes, but it is not instead of working through your own fear and anxiety and distrust and overwhelm. It works best in conjunction. Otherwise, again, he can be honest all day long and it's not going to solve anything.
I think that's where couples get really stuck when they get into recovery and they kind of go through it's almost like the whole world blows apart.
Yes.
And there's some like triage work and some grounding and getting your heart back. And then so many couples kind of come to this space of, well, it's not like as terrible as it was, but we're definitely not as close as we could be. Yeah. I think that's part of the problem is exactly what you're describing of we've been relying on this honesty check-in and it's kept us safe enough, but it's also not allowing us to go to new depths inside of the relationship either.
100%.
Well, I think we need to be like really clear with honesty. So like I could tell my partner something, and sorry guys, it's kind of noisy in the background here. I could tell my partner something and what I say might be the exact same words, but my intention can be different. And so like I could say, hey, I need to disclose something to you because I want to use you for my self-worth, because I want to show you that I'm good, because I want to manipulate you in all these ways, versus, hey, I need to tell you something. Because I need to tell you something, because I need to get back into my integrity. And so it's not about the words, it's really about where your heart's at. Mm-hmm. And that's where you'll feel that strength and you'll feel that integrity. And that's what real honesty is. Right?
Yeah, I totally agree. I actually think this comes back to a thought I had earlier. where you said that integrity is really in alignment with truth. And I love this thought that it is, because I disagree with a lot of this, like my truth, your truth, her truth, his truth. And I think integrity is rather having like a capital T truth, a set of beliefs that you have created intentionally, and having it come back to that. Because again, your truth is more easily manipulated when you are the one that is hiding or justifying or things like that. It's easier to wiggle the lines of what is your truth. But when you have a capital T truth that is the foundation, then that's what you realign with, if that makes sense. And I think that is more of like the honesty part, because you can be like, oh, well, like I guess spoke my truth. Like according to my truth, all I just have to do is be honest and like share what's actually going on in my head. But that might be different than, no, my integrity, my capital T truth says I'm out of alignment with myself and my truth, the capital T truth. And so that's why I want to share it.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of self-awareness and mindfulness to go to that next level of just speaking my truth versus speaking the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I have to actually do a lot of internal work to align myself with that first in order to be speaking the truth.
Yeah.
And what I find with most of my clients that start to actually catch this thing is interesting is, I've heard it said that speaking and living the truth produces the best outcome regardless of what that outcome is. And that doesn't mean there's not fear. That doesn't mean there's negative outcome. But the outcome of the truth is at least the truth.
Yes.
The any other outcome that's not the truth already has a different layer of hell that you have to go through just to get to the truth. And so the quest of living the truth it's the quest of a lifetime, but it's a wonderful quest, and it brings pain. It brings struggle, it brings fear, but it also brings joy because you can live in reality.
Mm-hmm.
And reality is a big deal when we're talking about recovery for both sides, because you've got a betrayed partner who's had her whole reality distorted and blown apart. You've had the addicted partner that's been running from reality, and truth aligns us all with here's where we're at. And we can be afraid of it, but it's better here than it was there.
100%.
I got in a conversation recently, and it was, is there actually truth, or is everything subjective? And we don't need to go down that road.
It's a whole different episode.
But I'm just processing everything Jolene just said, because I love it and agree. I believe in capital T truth. I think that there are principles that just are true. And when we're trying to use truth as a justification to do whatever, then we're not in our integrity. And when you get aligned back to that source of truth, you'll feel peace, you'll feel strength. With couples, sometimes I see, one person has one truth and another has another truth. And I think this is where you have an opportunity for real intimacy and trust building and connection, or you have an opportunity for disconnection and resentment, is when you can come together and say, here's my truth. And the other person comes and says, here's my truth. Look, we differ. Let's explore this principle or this thing together to try to get to some capital T truth on this thing. Yeah. You're a good reflector. You're a good teacher for me. You help me discuss this and explore this. And that's awesome. That's what relationships all about, is to try to figure truth out, right?
Yeah. I think the word that I would use is a story. That's the word I always use with my clients, is that this is your story, the way that you tell the story of what happened. And then he has a story of how he tells what happened, and neither are wrong, but they're just a story. It's the accumulation of thoughts that you've created about what has happened. And I think unintentionally, we often make our story more dramatic or heavier than it needs to be based on how we tell it, based on our perception of it, how we take it in, which is how you can rewrite past experiences, right? That's why when a woman has a husband that, admits something to her, she feels like she can rewrite, like her whole world is blown up. The man that I thought that I knew, I don't even know him anymore. Now every memory I've ever had is tainted. It's because you're changing the story. Now, does it actually change what physically happened in the past? No, it's just how you're thinking about it. So I always tell my ladies that your story is dramatic enough. We don't need to add to it. Like what you're going through is hard enough. We don't need to make it harder. We don't need to make it heavier. Let's just deal with what is. So I always try to erase as many words as possible, not because they're unimportant, but because they're just adding a layer of heaviness that we don't need. And so when you can get two people to do that, when you can get the husband and wife to do that, to come together on a really emotional level and be honest about where they are emotionally and recognize this is the story I'm coming with. This is the story you're coming with. And then they say, where do we want to go together on purpose? That's the most powerful place I think you can get to.
But you have to own that that's your story in order to do that, rather than come to the table and be like, this is the truth.
This is the story.
The story.
This is what happened.
This is my story. This is my perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that, changing that language slightly to my story, because it opens up. I mean, just certain words do that. Like everyone wants to hear the story, but we can just listen to the story and have it be a story. That makes it easier for a partner to hear it and hold it and be empathetic to it without going like, well, I need to agree to everything that they're saying right now. It's like, no, actually I don't. I'm just hearing the story. Mm-hmm. And I have a story too. And now together, and this is what a great tool for couples to learn to do, is to actually take all of the story as data that we can now explore together. So now we're on a quest to unravel, like, well, yeah, maybe I did over exaggerate that a little bit, or you know what, like here's what the facts actually were. And like now we can join together what you're saying, Brannon. It's an opportunity for deeper intimacy when it's two stories trying to being distilled down to the truth. Yeah, instead of let's fight over who's right.
Nobody wins that argument.
I know. Then we're more disconnected than when we started anyway.
Exactly.
Okay, I got to give my second scenario because I'm sure Tyler and you, Jolene, have dealt with this. So let's say you're the wife who's trying to hang in there. You've experienced some betrayal trauma. Let's say there's been some cheating or something, and you get into doing work and you're in groups and he relapses, he cheats again. But you love him and you don't want to leave, you don't want to break the family up. And so you hang in there and he does it again. At what point are you betraying yourself and giving up your integrity by staying, when a part of your heart is saying to stay? And a part of your heart and truths are saying, stop getting taken advantage of. You're being an idiot. Mm-hmm. Like, what are you doing here? I know this is a tough question, but I thought maybe we could explore it together, because there's a lot of people in that scenario thinking, what do I do? Like, I don't want to face divorce or whatever the consequences are there, but I also don't want to get cheated on anymore.
Right.
What do you guys think?
I don't think this is that hard of a question.
Brannon's throwing around all sorts of trick questions and you're not going for it.
I know. I can tell Jolene can handle it. I love it.
I have faced this before. So what I always tell my clients is that this is going to be completely individual to every single person. I don't know when somebody should stay and when somebody should go. The only person that is going to know that is them. It's completely individual. This is why some people stay and they've been cheated on multiple times, and some people leave even if they suspect it. It's because there is no cut and dry, this is when you stay and this is when you go. Here, it's written down in a formula for you. Every single person.
I've had women in my group feel really stupid for staying.
Of course they do.
Like the other women in group are like, what are you doing? Like,
Yes. So here's my response to that, is that most people make that decision from an emotional place. in a way where they say, I don't know that I want that outcome, but I know I can't do this anymore. And when they say this, they mean how they're feeling. And the reason that that is such a difficult place to live is because they don't know how to deal with it in a healthy way. They don't know how to process their emotions. They don't know what's the difference between a story and reality. All they know is that they're fully emotionally overwhelmed and they can't do what they're doing anymore. And they think the only way out of that is to leave the circumstance, is to leave the marriage. Now, can you do that? Yes. But as we all know, is that that emotional baggage comes with you into your next relationship, into your singleness the rest of your life. It doesn't leave. So the best thing that you can do is learn how to process the emotions from that and then make that decision from a clean place, which is getting really clear on what do you want to do and why, and do you like your reasons?
I think that's awesome response. I'm thinking to add to what you were saying a little bit, Brannon, your question when it came up, you actually, I think you kind of gave part of the answer in your question for me. And it was, I have values of staying and being loyal, and I want to fight for my marriage. And I also have values of keeping my self-respect. And when is enough enough? And I think, Jolene, you're actually kind of saying a similar thing. To me, it was like, I need to know what my values are.
Yeah.
And then own my decision based on those values with all of the consequences that are going to come from either end.
Yes.
But it's that I've done the work to be aware enough of the truth of my situation and what my values are. And then to make, hey, if I stay, there's a pretty good chance I'm going to get burned again. So I better learn how to see it differently, feel differently about it, detach myself from it, not have it be as personal. If I go, I need to understand why I'm going.
Yes.
And I have to acknowledge that I'm sacrificing that other part of my values and be honest about that too when I do that. Because otherwise we run the risk of them dropping back into that place of living without the integrity. And then that's confusing. And then we're having to climb out of that hole again. So
I think what's really kind of helpful is owning it one way or the other.
Yes.
What we see a lot is someone who's just stuck.
Yes.
Like, I don't want a divorce, but I also don't want to be vulnerable and stay and do this work.
Mm-hmm.
But to own it one way or the other of, in my integrity, I choose to stay, or in my integrity, I choose to go.
Well, also noticing, and this is what I say to a lot of women, is that every day you don't leave, you are choosing to stay. So you're already choosing to stay. So you might as well do it on purpose and in a way that feels empowering and is beneficial and helpful and at least moves you toward a possible relationship that you want, rather than staying in a place where, again, you're just the victim and you can't do anything about it. Because that's what happens when you say I'm stuck, or you just take. And I think this is the other problem, is people want someone to give them the answer. That's why they ask for advice. They want a support group, a therapist, a mom, somebody. They'll just want somebody to tell them what to do. And then they do that. But that's, if it's not in alignment, you can have 50 people telling you, well, you should leave. But if it's not really in alignment with what you want, then you won't.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I love the way, Jolene, I resonate with you in terms of, a lot of times I try to butt out of my clients' lives. Mm-hmm. And I reflect back and let them sort through what their truths are. And I think it's easy for life coaches or therapists to want to feel really important and give all the answers.
Yeah.
And I think the best life coaches and therapists are the ones that help the person figure out what their truths are and then live their best life.
100%. Because I fully believe that I will never know my client as well as they know themselves. I haven't lived with them, but it is my job to help them see where they are so that then they can make that decision from a place where it is in alignment with what they want.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're running a little bit short on time for this episode. Jolene, thank you so much for your willingness to come on and have this discussion with us. I think the topic of integrity is right at the core. I mean, it's the core, and this is, most people don't think of it from a betrayed partner's side, but it's at the core of both sides of recovery.
For sure.
Because it's an alignment tool, it's an alignment principle that then allows the heart to fully experience life on its terms. And we say the word a lot. I think the word has certain connotations, but the word actually means a lot more than those connotations sometimes.
Jolene, where do people find you?
I'm on Instagram at Jolene Win Coaching. You can look up my podcast, which is called The Porn Addict's Wife, or I have a website, which is jolenewin.com.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I'd love to collaborate again and
absolutely.
Because
so fun. Thank you so much.
I love what you're doing. So,
and for those of you who are listening to our show, thank you for being here. We love your feedback. And until next time, keep on keeping on.